Hi friends, it's me, Priscilla from Pretty and Page. I am here to show y'all part one of how to make the Scrappi Cardi. It's my newest pattern I'll be releasing sometime soon. So if you're seeing this video prior to me releasing the pattern, that's awesome. Then that way you can get a little bit of a head start on making some squares. But I figured I'd make a little tutorial on how to make the squares for the cardigan. I can insert a photo somewhere on this video so you can see what it looks like if you are not familiar to what I'm talking about, if you're just kind of scrolling through YouTube and you just found me here. But we're gonna go ahead and jump right in. So for this pattern, I'm using a J crochet hook, and that is a 6mm crochet hook. I've been using this tulip hook. I'm typically a clover lover, however, I'm just using these tulip hooks for now. I got them for Christmas, so I figured I'd give them a fair shot. And you'll be needing some worsted weight yarn. This is a scrap cardigan, so just grab some scrap yarn. I just have a bucket of usually just balls of yarn or caked yarn that I just kind of throw in here. So you'll need 4 colors. And I'll just grab 4 that kind of like catch my eye, I guess. Let's see, maybe this should be enough. Hopefully this is enough. We might play a game of yarn chicken, but to avoid that, maybe I'll just swap this one for this one, just to avoid yarn chicken. So you'll need 4 colors, and you will need a darning needle to weave in your ends. I will show you how I weave in my ends at the end of this video. You'll need a pair of scissors. I also brought out my measuring tape just so I can show y'all the gauge of this pattern. This pattern is quite easy to modify. You can make the squares a whole lot larger or smaller based on if you're making the cardigan for yourself or for someone else. But the gauge that I went for was I want my squares to be 6.5 inches. So I do tend to crochet loosely. So if you tend to crochet tight and you have a tighter tension, I do recommend to go up a hook size. I do have that written in the pattern as well. So I do have a tester that says that she is now using an 8mm crochet hook to get a 6.5 inch square. I also will say that I do not block my squares. So I like how the weight of the cardigan kind of pulls the squares just the way I want them to, and I don't block them. But if you feel like you need to block them just to achieve the 6.5, or you like your squares blocked prior to making any type of granny square pattern, you go ahead and do that. That is totally up to you. Maker's choice, of course. I'm going to pull up my notes here just so I could move along. All right, so we're going to do the large squares. So the body of the cardigan has larger squares, and then the sleeves on the cardigan have smaller squares. The sleeves, I think the squares are 5.5 inches, and it's just a little bit of a modified stitch on the inside. So nothing's changed, no hook size change or anything like that. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the center color of the square. And if you want to let me show you a visual of what the square looks like. This is what the square will look like. It is a Sunburst square. These are the squares I've been making for part 2 and part 3 of the video series of how to join the square. So I just decided to make like a variegated square just so I can avoid weaving in so many ends just for the YouTube tutorial. But I did make like a bunch of different squares for that video, but this is what it will look like. So we're going to start with the center square and center color, and then we're going to switch colors to the second color here, and then the petals, and then the outer square. So you need 4 colors, okay? So we're going to go ahead and start with the center color. We're going to chain 4, and then we're going to slip stitch to our first chain to create a ring or a circle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're gonna slip stitch into this first chain that we created to create a little circle here. I may zoom in just so it's a little easier. There you go. And And then we're gonna chain 2, and my chain 2 does not count as a stitch, but that is maker's choice, of course. We're gonna double crochet 16 into this ring or circle, whatever you wanna call this. I just call it a little ring. So we're gonna double crochet 16 into this circle. 1, 2. Let me just unwind my yarn a little bit here. 3, 4, 5, 6. And I do tend to get my tail, I like to tuck it behind a little bit here, so you'll see me like pulling it. 2, 4, 6, 7. I lost count. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. And after you do the 16 double crochets into that little hole there, circle, whatever you want to call it, you're going to slip stitch to the first double crochet that you created, and you're going to fasten off. However you prefer to do that. I typically just chain 1 just so it's pretty secure, and then I'll pull my tail tight from the back. And I do have a little trick on how to make this hole disappear, so if you want to stick around till the end, I can show you that. But we're going to go ahead and change colors, so we're going to go into the second round. The second round is made up of puff stitches. I'm trying to look for my smaller amount of yarn here, that way we don't play yarn chicken. So if I can find the end of this one, see, it's a Scrappi cardigan for a reason, I guess. So now we're going to join in any one of these double crochets. I typically just put my yarn through, and I don't tie a knot. I don't know what this, oh yeah, essentially it is a knot. I just kind of do that to it. And then I take my hook and I put it through the stitch and I grab it and I chain 1. So we're going to start with the chain 1 on this round, and then we're going to do a series of puff stitches around this round here. I'll go ahead and put what the puff stitches mean here on the screen so you can follow me. But my puff stitches are essentially like 3 half double crochets together in the same stitch. And then after each puff stitch, we're going to chain 1. So, and I will preface, I probably should have prefaced this in the beginning. This would be for more of a, I guess, like an advanced beginner, or maybe like an intermediate crochet pattern. I'm sure there is some tutorials on YouTube that have a little bit of a slower paced on how to make this particular square, but I figured I just wanted to show you how I made it and how I weaved in my ends. That way, you know, you can have some more resources if need be. We're gonna go ahead and create all these little puff stitches around this second round, and making sure that we have a chain 1 in between each one. And my little tail decided to come out and party out here, so I'm just gonna kind of pull them out of there, and some hair. My hair always gets caught up into these projects. I'm sure that I'm not the only one. So we're gonna keep going till we reach the end, and we should have 16 puff stitches once we reach the end. Oh, I need one more in there. And then I think this is my last one. I can always double check. I sometimes just create stitches sometimes. And sometimes I like to double check to make sure before I slip stitch that I have 16. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and I have 16. Make sure you have that chain 1 after that last puff stitch. Then we're going to slip stitch onto the top of that beginning puff stitch. Slip stitch. I just fasten off however you do that. Cut it off. Then we're going to go on to our third color. Third color uses a little bit more yarn because it is a treble stitch. So the third row, we're going to join our yarn in any of one of these chain one spaces. So I'll just pick one of these, do my little thing here, and then we're going to, I pull the loop here, we're going to chain 4, and this first chain 4 does equal as a treble stitch. This should be my little knot over here. And now we're going to do 3 trebles together in this same chain 1 spot. So 3 trebles together. And that's a pretty dark color. Sorry about that. And then we're gonna pull through all those. And then we're gonna chain 2 this time. And I call these clusters in my pattern, so I'm gonna call this a cluster. And then now in each one of the next chain 1 spaces, we're going to do 4 trebles together. And then we're going to chain 2 in between each one of those clusters. So we're going to chain 4, not chain 4, treble 4 together. Let's see, chain 4, not chain 4, treble 4 together. Oh my gosh, my brain isn't working. And then we're going to chain 2. So the first one was the chain 4, and then 3 treble together, and then we're chain 2, and then each one after this will be a treble 4 together, chain 2, treble 4 together, chain 2, all the way around until you hit right here, and then you should have a total of 16 clusters or petals, whatever you like to call them. I call them clusters. I'm unsure why. I always have. So we're gonna continue this all the way around, making sure we have chain 2 in between our clusters and our yarn isn't acting a fool. I guess I caked that one like way too tightly, so like my yarn doesn't want to pull through the center as nicely. Chain 2, and again, I do crochet a little looser for this project. I also tend to crochet looser in general, so if you find yourself crocheting pretty tightly, you can just go ahead and up the hook size. I would just go up 1 full hook. Like I wouldn't go to 6.5, I would just go up to a 7 if you feel like you're too tight. Ooh, did I get right in? I got into my puff stitch there. Just so you can try to meet the gauge a bit. There it goes. My puff stitch was like going wacko in the back over there. And I'm totally recording this while my neighbor is mowing the lawn, so I hope you don't hear that, but if you do, could be kind of relaxing, I guess. I'm unsure. He is literally like right up on my like yard. Like he's like literally my next door neighbor. Anyway, just chatting along here. All right, making our way around. Whoa. I wonder if people find this satisfying to like watch people crochet. I know I do. Sometimes while I'm crocheting, I'll like throw on like a YouTube video or something of, you know, people crocheting. It could just be me. It keeps me motivated, I think. I don't know. All right, we're almost to the end here. This is a really dark and deep blue. I'm not sure if even the camera can pick it up. It looks black to me in my viewfinder, so. All right. So once we get 16 clusters or whatever you want to call them, petals done, you're going to slip stitch to the top of the first one. So right on the top, hopefully you can see that, right on the top. Join and fasten off, and then we're going to join our fourth and final color. I'm going to toss these in my scrap basket just so they don't get in the way. Oh, this one's really wound up. Like wound up? Wound up? I don't know what the word is. Wound up? Oh, I'll just sit here and make myself crazy thinking about it. Anyway, fourth color. This is the square part. So we're just going to join our color into any one of these chain 2 spaces. Join as you normally would, or you can follow what I'm doing. Whatever makes you happy. So from here we're going to chain 4, and this chain 4 equals a treble, or counts as a treble stitch. And we're going to start our first corner. So we're going to put 2 trebles into the same stitch as that chain 4. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to place 3 more trebles into this chain 2 space. 3 more trebles. This yarn is very tight in there. Okay. So that is your first corner. This is what it will look like, and each corner will have a chain 3 up here and 3 trebles on each side. All right, into the next chain 2 space, we're going to put 3 double crochets. And then the next one, we're going to put 3 half double crochets. And then the next one, 3 double crochets. So far this is what it should look like. That's my tail. And so now we're going to put a corner into this next chain 2 space. Will be 3 trebles, chain 3, and then 3 trebles. Two and 3. Oh, almost went into a stitch and not the chain 2 space. There it goes. So there is my corner. So now we're going to repeat this sequence all the way around. So we're going to put 3 doubles here, 3 halves, 3 double, corner. And then we're going to keep repeating that. 3 double, 3 half, 3 double, corner. 3 double, 3 half, 3 double, and then we're going to slip stitch right over here onto the top of that chain 4. And then we should have a square. Three half, 3 double, and then this is the corner. Am I getting off a frame? Sometimes I feel like I am. It's hard to crochet looking at the viewfinder when it's like right next to me, like the item. The viewfinder is like above my head, so, and it's like kind of tiny, so I can't see my stitches. But hopefully this will give you a little bit of an idea how to make these squares. Or this is the large square. And then I'll move on to the smaller square in a sec once we get this one done. One, two, three. Last corner. So far this is what mine looks like. And now I'm gonna put 3 halves, 3 doubles, 3 halves. That's what mine looks like so far. Oh, I feel extra bad. I picked out a really dark color. But then again, it's a scrappy granny square cardigan, so it was a scrap yarn. I just wanted to, it was calling my name. All right, so once you finish this round 4, we're going to slip stitch into the top of this chain 4 right over here. Get my hook in there. We're gonna fasten off. Voila. And now I'm going to teach you a little trick on how to get this hole to disappear. If you're one of people like me, I particularly do not like this hole. I'm unsure why. I started crocheting and I learned how to do the magic circle. But I know for garments it's usually best to just start with a chain 4, so just so it doesn't come undone, you know? So I'm going to teach you how a little trick. I kind of was playing around with it one day and it kind of worked. Hopefully it works for this video. It's like a 90% chance it'll work, but you'll need your needle. And so basically what I do is I follow the tail back from where it was coming from. So if I pull this tail, it's coming from this direction. So what I do is I look for the stitch in front of it. So essentially it's this one here. So I'm gonna put my yarn needle or darning needle through that. I'm gonna follow the tail back. I can shimmy it. And I'm just gonna hold this. And I'm gonna feed this little mini tail through my needle. I'm gonna pull it through. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. So hope for the best here. And I kind of pull tight. And look at that, it actually worked. And now the hole is gone. Voila, it's disappeared. It is no longer there. It's not here to party anymore. And then you can basically follow this tail around if you'd like, just to kind of tuck it back in and then snip off the excess. And that's basically how I get that hole to disappear. But I figured I'd show you a little trick while I was here. So for the small squares that you'll need for the sleeves, the small squares it's basically the same thing as this square, and I'll probably put a little instructions here on the screen somewhere. So for the first round, instead of double crochets, you're going to be doing halves. So instead of 16 double crochets into your little ring that you created, you're going to do 16 half double crochets. And then you're going to do round 2 just as is. The puff stitches, those are the same. And then for round 3, instead of trebles, you're going to do doubles. So for that first little cluster that we made, that we chained 4, that equaled as a treble stitch, and then we did treble 3 together. Instead of that, you're going to do a chain 3, and that will equal as a double crochet, and then you'll do double crochet 3 together into that chain space, and then chain 2 as usual for in between all your clusters, and then each one of the other clusters you're going to do 4 double crochets together. So what's that going to do is basically bring your square in a little smaller, and I prefer the sleeves squares to be a little bit narrower. That way they don't balloon out. I feel like when the squares are too big for the sleeves, it almost looks like a puffer fish. I don't know how to explain it any better. It just doesn't look that great in my eyes. But if you prefer all your squares to be the same size, you totally can do that. It does not deter from the pattern at all, actually. It will be the same. I just made the squares a little smaller just so the sleeves were just a little bit less bell-like, or poofy, I should say. More like, yeah, poofy. So sometimes I'll just stretch out my square just a bit just to kind of loosen up those stitches. I feel like, and then once I like weave in my ends when I do, sometimes it'll get a little tighter. And ooh, yeah, I didn't weave in my ends for this tutorial. Don't mind me, don't be like me, and you should totally weave in your ends. Like, totally, I did that for the other part that I'll be doing with you guys soon on how to join the squares. I literally just tucked in all the ends as I was making the squares because I was like, I can't leave this for the end. It would drive me nuts. But yes, so this square should measure 6.5 inches. If it doesn't, then that was just my user error. But yep, 6.5 inches. So 6.5 inches is the best, in my opinion, for an oversized cardigan. Then again, if you prefer a little bit of a narrower fit, or like a fitted fit, oh my gosh, I can't speak, a fitted fit, you can make them a little bit smaller. I mean, if you're more petite and you know, stature, or if you want it even bigger, if you want like a more of a cozier, oversized cardigan, you can make these squares even bigger. If you even wanted to, you can always add like another row of another row of a border around the squares. That's totally up to you. I will have all those notes in the pattern, so when I do release it, you should have access to all those notes on how to modify the cardigan to kind of fit you personally. I was trying my best to kind of get some sizes that would fit body types where it would be like not a one size fits most, but in the ballpark of an oversized comfy fit. You know, like where you can kind of layer it, but you don't have to, that kind of deal. But yes, this is a Scrappi cardigan granny square. I can't speak. I don't have approximate yardage though yet, but I will say for this cardigan that I am making for the tutorial, it is called the shorty cardigan. The shorty cardigan, you'll need 39 squares total. So you'll need, I need to probably do my math here. Let me see if I can look at my notes. So you'll need 15 of these larger squares. So the 6.5, or actually not 15, you need 27. I lied. You need 27 of these 6.5 inch granny squares. And then you'll need 12 of the 5.5. So the one where you do the half double crochet and then the double crochet clusters instead of the treble. To achieve the sleeves. So you'll need 39 squares for the shorty cardigan, and that is the one that I will be showing you in the part 2 and part 3, and hopefully not part 4, but depending on how chatty I get or how you know, sometimes I can over explain things. But anyway, I hope this tutorial helped y'all on to make the Sunburst modified, I should say, Sunburst granny square for my Scrappi Cardi, and I hope you had fun with me. I'm a bit chatty, I guess, but if you want to subscribe to my channel, you totally can. I'm hoping to release a couple of free patterns within the next couple months. This, you know, I think recording is the easiest thing for me. However, the editing part is where it gets a little bit finicky. And it's like a learning curve here. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to like share this pattern with you guys. It was actually really fun to put it together. And yeah, thank you so much. Bye-bye.